Hi, welcome all. I am Vijesh and here to describe about crystal defects. These topics are as per the MG University MSc Semester 3 Material Science Elective course. This is the module 1, the video module 1 on unit 1, crystal defects. Before watching this video, I recommend all of you to have a basic idea regarding crystals and crystallography. For that, I recommend the previously uploaded videos on crystallography. These are the links for the videos. Those three videos are based on crystals, crystallography, and X-ray diffraction. So I recommend all of you to watch these videos before watching this present video on crystal defects or crystal imperfections. Okay, now let us move forward into the topic crystal imperfections or crystal defects. Up to now, we have described ideal crystal. What is meant by an ideal crystal? An ideal crystal is formed by keeping a basis to a lattice. So, an ideal crystal is formed by the combination of lattice plus basis. Lattice means a three-dimensional, infinite, periodic arrangement of points. So, that is an important thing. It is an infinite, periodic arrangement of points in space. If we keep an atom or group of atom that is known as basis to this lattice points, then that will form an ideal crystal. We have described all this in detail in our previous video modules. Okay, so an ideal crystal consists of a basis incorporated to space lattice. So it is an infinite lattice points, infinite extent. It is of infinite extent. Now, in real practice or when we come across real crystals, there are some changes. You know, real crystals deviates from the ideality. These type of deviations from the ideal nature of a crystal is known as defects or imperfections. You know, a real crystal is finite in nature. Therefore, they have a surface as their boundary where some of the atomic bonds are broken. So the surface itself is then an imperfection. And in addition, there are other occasional disruptions in the periodicity within a crystal. For example, even though, for example, if a 0.01 percentage of atoms were missing from the atomic site, we feel that that is very small quantity, very small amount, but it is not like that. Many properties of crystalline materials that we deal with are structure sensitive properties. So even a very small percentage of missing of an atom itself causes changes in their properties. For example, a few parts per million of gallium in a silicon crystal may change their properties. We learned that in many of the semiconductor physics topics, that addition of a very small quantity of an impurity into a semiconductor crystal changes the properties. Okay, so any type of deviations from the ideal nature of a crystal is referred to as defects or imperfections. These defects, they control the physical and mechanical properties of the material, of the crystal. Okay, now the crystalline imperfections, the crystal imperfections can be classified on the basis of their geometry. As you can see here, they are mainly classified into four groups. Crystal imperfections are mainly classified into four groups. The zero-dimensional crystal imperfection, or point imperfection, point defects. Then one-dimensional imperfection, which is known as line imperfection or dislocation. Then comes the surface imperfections, and finally the volume imperfections. And all these four type of imperfections, there are subcategories. As shown here, you can see that a point imperfection itself is of three types, which is again, there are some other classifications also, we can study that. And you can see the line imperfection is classified into two, then surface imperfection also into a number of subdivisions, then volume imperfections also divided. So these are the type of crystal imperfections. Now let us look into these four type of crystal imperfections in detail. In this video, we are learning only about point imperfections. About the other three type of imperfections, we'll deal in the next video module. Okay, so remember, in this video module we are going to learn only about one type of major category of crystal imperfection, that is point imperfection. Okay, see, point imperfections are mainly classified into three. The three type of point imperfections, they are vacancy, substitutional imperfection, interstitial imperfection. And there is even subcategories like Schottky defect and Frenkel defect. Okay, now let us look into these in detail. The first type of point defect is vacancy. Okay, a vacancy refers to an atomic site from where the atom is missing. So you can see a vacancy type point defect in this slide. So here on the left side you can see a perfect crystal arrangement, atomic arrangement in a perfect crystal, but the next one you can see a vacancy. That means one of the parent atom is missing there, so it created a vacancy type point defect there. Okay, so now we learned about vacancy or point defect. Now a special type of vacancy type defect that occur in ionic crystals, that is known as Schottky defect. It is also known as ion pair vacancy. It's a type of vacancy, ion pair vacancy. That means a pair of one cation and one anion can be missing from an ionic crystal. So you can see here, this is the regular arrangement of an atoms, but you can see that the negative ion and the positive ion, the cation and anion, a pair of cation anion is missing. That is why it is known as ion pair vacancy. Okay, this is another picture that showing one negative ion and one positive ion is not there, it is missing from this. So this type of a vacancy that exists in ionic crystals is known as Schottky defect. Okay, so a pair of one cation and anion can be missing from an ionic crystal. Such a pair of vacant ion sites is called Schottky imperfection. Okay, this type of imperfection is commonly seen or dominant in alkali halide crystals. They're mostly ionic crystals. Alkali, for example, you can see sodium chloride. It's an alkali halide material. Okay, so that is so we learned about vacancy type impurity. I mean vacancy type imperfection, and in that a subcategory which is known as Schottky defect, that is commonly seen in alkali halide ionic crystals. Okay, now the second type of point defect, come back to the point defect main category now. In that, the second type is known as substitutional imperfection. A substitutional imperfection occur when a foreign atom, an exterior, another type of atom that substitutes or replaces a parent atom. So when one parent atom is replaced by another type of material, an external material, an impurity material, that type of an imperfection formed is known as a substitutional impurity. Okay, that is the second category of imperfection under point imperfection category. Now the third type of imperfection under point defect category is interstitial. What is an interstitial defect? In the interstitial type defect, you can see that as in this figure, a small sized atom occupies the void space in the parent crystal. It is not replacing any parent atom, but it is a small atom, a small external atom. A small atom occupies the void space, the vacant space between the parent atom. In the previous case, what we discussed about the substitution type defect, in that one parent atom was replaced by another atom. But in this case, in the case of interstitial type impurity, another atom occupies the vacant space between parent atom. So that is known as an interstitial impurity. It's also a point defect. An atom can enter the interstitial void, interstitial space, only when its size is very small compared to the parent atom. Then only it can occupy that space between the parent atom. There are some size limitations, as we mentioned, in the case of this interstitial type defect. For example, in the closed packed structures like octahedral or tetrahedral, etc. So consider an example: the largest atom that can fit the octahedral site have a radius 0.414 times radius of the parent atom. In a tetrahedral void, the radius the radius of the largest one is 0.225 times radius of the parent atom. So the largest atom that can fit into an octahedral void is 0.414 times radius of the parent atom. As an example, consider carbon atom. Okay, carbon is an interstitial solute in iron. It occupies the octahedral voids in the high temperature face-centered cubic form of iron. So the size of iron is 1.29 angstrom, whereas the radius of carbon is 0.71 angstrom. So when you use the expression 0.414 times the radius of parent atom, that is 0.53 in this case, but the radius of the interstitial carbon is 0.71. So its size, so here the size of the octahedral void is 0.53 angstrom and the size of the carbon atom is 0.71 angstrom. So therefore what happens when carbon tries to enter into this void, it creates a strain. The octahedral void is 0.53 angstrom in the case of iron, but the size of carbon that is trying to enter into the interstitial site is of 0.71 angstrom. So that creates a strain around carbon atom in the face-centered cubic structure of iron. Therefore, the solubility of this carbon into iron is limited to weight percentage. If you consider the case of body-centered cubic form of iron, the solubility is even lesser than this. Okay. In interstitial type point defect, this is a special category, Frankel defect, that normally occurs in the case of ionic crystals. So, in ionic crystals, an interstitial type defect occur due to the movement of one regular ion, most commonly the positive ion, which the cation that is smaller in this case. So the cation, normally the cation move from the regular atomic site into an interstitial site. So this type of a defect that normally occur in an ionic type crystal is known as a Frankel imperfection or a Frankel defect. This normally, in this case, normally cation moves because they are of a smaller size. Okay, a Frankel imperfection does not change the overall electrical neutrality of the crystal. The point imperfection, as an example for this, we can consider the case of silver halides. Okay, so we learned about interstitial type defect, and one type of interstitial defect that occur in ionic crystals are Frankel defect. Okay, so this we already learned in two subcategories of point defect. They are Schottky defect and Frankel defect. So now these two type of defect normally occur in ionic crystals. Okay, as we already discussed this, we are not going into detail. But anyway, what is Schottky defect? That is also known as ion pair defect. So a pair of ions are missing. A cation and anion is missing. So the electrical neutrality is maintained there. And the next one is an interstitial type defect. That means a cation is normally moved from the regular site into an interstitial site. What is an interstitial site? It is the void, the space between the parent atom. Okay, so from the regular site, a cation moved to the interstitial site. So in this case also, the overall electrical neutrality is maintained. Okay, so Schottky defect and Frankel defect both belongs to the point defect category. Schottky defect is a type of vacancy defect, and Frankel defect is a type of interstitial type defect. Okay. Okay, so next we move on to enthalpy of formation of a point imperfection. Okay, what is this actually? You just consider the case of a perfect crystal. You can see they are perfectly bonded together. This is the case on the left side. On the left side, you can see a perfectly bonded crystal. Okay, but the presence of a point defect, a point imperfection, introduces distortion in the crystal. Before any type of imperfection, the crystal, we consider this crystal that show here is a perfect one, but due to the presence of a point defect, a point imperfection, distortion in the crystal occurs. So that means it alter from the regular nature of that. Irrespective of the type of point imperfection, what all type of point imperfection we learned? We learned about vacancy, substitution type, interstitial type. So whatever it is, whatever type of point imperfection that introduces a distortion in the crystal. If the imperfection is a vacancy, as shown here, you can see the bond that connected that missing atom to the neighboring atom are free now. So that causes a distortion, right? Because the bond that connected between that atom and the neighboring atom, that is not that bonds are free now. Now, if the case of point defect due to addition of impurity, as we discussed in the case of substitution or interstitial, as a result of the size difference, elastic strains are created in the region of the crystal immediately surrounding the impurity atom. So this is clear, right? That is, when an atom is missing or due to a vacancy, there are free bonds. That is actually a distortion in the crystal. Now consider the other two types. What are the other two types? One of the atom is replaced by an external atom, that is called substitution, or another atom placed in between the parent atom, in the void space, that is called interstitiation. These two types also causes elastic strains in the surrounding regions. The elastic strains are present irrespective of whether the impurity atom is larger size or smaller size. If the impurity atom that is going to keep here is of larger size, you just imagine this vacant space is filled with a larger atom. What will happen? It will push the other neighboring atoms away, so that creates a compressive stress on the surrounding region, right? Now you consider a smaller atom replaces this parent atom. Then it will create a tensile stress strain field. Tensile means it's like a pulling effect. The other one was a compressive effect. If the space is filled with a larger atom, it compresses the neighboring atoms. If the space is filled with a smaller sized one, it is like a pulling effect. That is, a tensile stress strain field will be created. So whatever the type of point imperfection, whether it is vacancy, whether it is substitution, or it is interstitial, in all these cases, the crystal distorts. Okay. So all these factors tends to increase the enthalpy, the potential energy of the crystal. So a work is required to be done for creating the point imperfection. And this work required to be done for creating the point imperfection is called the enthalpy of formation. Okay. So what is enthalpy of formation? It is the work required to be done for creating a point imperfection. Okay. It is represented by delta HF. We can see here it is represented by delta HF, and it is normally expressed in a unit kilojoule per mole. Okay. So what is enthalpy of formation? It is the work required to be done for creating a point imperfection. Why a work is required to be done there? Because we know that whatever the type of point imperfection, that creates a distortion in the crystal, and that increases the enthalpy, or it increases the potential energy. So a work is required to be done for creating the point imperfection, and this is known as the enthalpy of formation, delta HF. Okay. The configurational enthalpy, the potential energy, is zero for a perfect crystal, but due to the increase in the defect, the point defect, the configurational entropy, or the potential energy due to the configuration, okay, the configurational entropy means, I'm sorry, the configuration entropy of the crystal increases, and I'm not talking about enthalpy now, this is about entropy. Okay, so the configurational entropy of the crystal increases. You know, entropy actually measure a disorder of the so the disorder was zero when it was a perfect crystal, but as the presence of point imperfection increases, what happens? This disorder, the disruption increases. So the configurational entropy of a crystal increases from zero to some positive value with the increase in concentration of the defect, the point defect, the point imperfection. So before considering any point imperfection, if the crystal was a perfect crystal, then the entropy was zero. But as the concentration of the point defect increases, the value of configurational entropy also increases. Okay. So if there are n, small letter n, if there are n number of point imperfections, if there are small letter n number of point imperfections in 1 mole of a crystal, then the change in Gibbs free energy delta G of the crystal can be written as delta G equal to delta H minus T delta S. That is equal to n times delta HF. What is this delta HF? It is the enthalpy of formation for one defect. If there are n defects, that is why this is n times delta HF minus K, the Boltzmann constant, T, the temperature, times n log n is the Avogadro number, n log n minus n log n minus n minus n log n. Okay, this gives the expression for change in free energy delta, change in the Gibbs free energy delta G of the crystal due to the introduction of n point defects. Okay, so here delta S is the change in entropy, the change in entropy delta S, which is given by this expression delta S equal to K times n log n minus n log n minus n log n. Now, how we obtained these expressions? We suddenly introduced some terms there, Gibbs free energy and all. Okay, so let us see how we got this expression. Okay. So for moving forward with the formation, the enthalpy of formation, we need this expression for Gibbs free energy. But for your understanding, let us look into this enthalpy of formation in detail or in Gibbs free energy and all. Then we'll come back to this equation and we'll move forward with the derivation. Okay, let us go to the next slide that explains all this. How this equation is obtained or how the equation for delta S is obtained. Okay. So let us look into that. So this is some basic thermodynamic function which we are going to discuss now for explaining how we got the previous equation. Okay. You know, the concepts of equilibrium and kinetics are associated with some thermodynamic parameters. Like pressure and temperature are familiar parameters. They are intensive parameters. There are some extensive parameters also, which depends on the extent or quality of the material that comprises the system. So some of the extensive thermodynamic parameters are, you can see here, internal energy, which is normally represented by E or U, which is given by the internal energy E equal to E0 plus integral Cv dt. What is E0? E0 is the internal energy of the material at 0 Kelvin. So at 0 Kelvin also there is some sort of internal energy. And as we know, Cv represents the specific heat at constant volume. Okay. Now there is another quantity, another extensive quantity, the enthalpy or the heat content of the material, that we can define in the same way as H at any temperature. I mean, okay, H is equal to H0 plus integral Cp dt, where H0 is the enthalpy at 0 Kelvin and Cp is the specific heat at constant pressure. And the internal energy and enthalpy are related by the expression H equal to E plus PV. But PV is the external energy. PV is the external energy as opposed to the internal energy and is equal to work done by the material at constant pressure in creating a volume V. For condensed systems like liquids and solids at atmospheric pressure, the PV term is negligible. Therefore, we can express E approximately equal to H. Internal energy and enthalpy are almost same for the case of condensed materials like liquids or solids. In the previous equation, there was an H0, the enthalpy at 0 Kelvin. That actually, what is the meaning of that? H0 represents the energy released when the individual atom of the material are brought together in the gaseous form to form solid form at 0 Kelvin. That is represented as H0. Okay, that is the energy released when individual atoms of the materials are brought closer to form a solid state at 0 Kelvin. So the gaseous state is generally taken as a reference state with zero energy state. So to indicate the system has lost energy, H0 is normally written as in a negative sign. As the temperature increases from 0 Kelvin, the material absorbs heat from the surroundings and the H value increases. And then the solid melt on reaching the melting point. And a further quantity of heat delta H, which is known as enthalpy of fusion, it melts. Enthalpy of fusion is added at the melting temperature. When all the solid has melted, the temperature of the liquid may further increase due to the absorption of energy, more and more energy. But all the energy that a system possesses is not available as work during a chemical change. Only some portion is available. So that part of the energy that is available as work is known as Gibbs free energy. Okay, so what is Gibbs free energy? All energy that a system possesses is not available as work during a chemical change. So only that part of the energy which is available as work is known as Gibbs free energy. And the part of energy that is not available for work is known as bound energy. So what is bound energy? The part of energy that is not available for work during a change is known as bound energy. Hmm? Now, another quantity that we already mentioned, entropy. It defines the relationship between total energy and Gibbs free energy. It represents a disorder. So at a constant pressure, the entropy of the system is given by S equal to integral Cp dt over T, or Cp over T dt. The entropy of a material is 0 at 0 Kelvin. The disorder is considered 0 at 0 Kelvin. But as the internal energy, I mean, it is this is in contrast to the enthalpy and internal energy, which have non-zero and negative values at 0 Kelvin. But the entropy increases with increase in temperature. The disorder increases with increase in temperature. So we can say that entropy is a measure of thermal disorder introduced into the solid as it is heated from above 0 Kelvin. So at 0 Kelvin, there is no entropy. But as the temperature increases, the entropy also increases. So that is why we say entropy is a measure of thermal disorder introduced to the solid because of heating. And when a solid converts into liquid, the entropy further increases because in solid state atoms have more freedom and can also move past one another, resulting in a greater disorder. So that is the reason why in the case of liquids, the entropy is higher compared to that of solids. And the configurational entropy is normally represented by the expression S equal to the entropy S equal to K times log W. So what we discussed till now is about thermal entropy. Thermal entropy is a term that directly connect to temperature, as we discussed. From 0 Kelvin, when you increase the temperature, this particular disorder also increases. That is known as thermal entropy. There is another type of entropy that is represented by term configuration entropy. The system also possesses a configurational entropy, which depends on the configuration of the system. Okay, so the configuration entropy can be written by S equal to K times log W, where K is the Boltzmann constant and W is the number of different configurations of equal potential energy. W is the number of different configurations of that material having equal potential energy in which the system can exist. Okay, now, so the Gibbs free energy G can be expressed in terms of enthalpy H and the entropy, the disorder S, by G equal to H minus Ts. So how can we represent the variation of Gibbs energy? Delta G equal to delta H minus T delta S. So Gibbs energy is used as a criterion of stability. The most stable state of material is that having minimum Gibbs energy. So this term, this Gibbs free energy, is normally used to represent the stability of a material. So which material is said to be more stable? The material having the minimum Gibbs energy is said to be the stable material. So for a process to occur spontaneously, the Gibbs energy must decrease during the process. So change in Gibbs free energy delta G is equal to delta H minus T delta S. Okay. Now, what is a change? Change is always final minus initial. So delta G is equal to G final minus G initial. So for a spontaneous process, the free energy change must be negative. That means it must decrease. So condition for a spontaneous change is delta G is equal to, it must be lesser than 0. So what is delta G? It is delta H minus T delta S. That must be less than 0, or it is decreasing. We learned that the change in Gibbs free energy must be decreasing for a spontaneous process to occur. So that means the final value will be less than the initial value. That is why G final minus G initial must be negative for a spontaneous process to occur. And if in some case, if there is no entropy change during a process, then the enthalpy change delta H can be used to in the place of delta G. That means if there is no entropy change during a process, then delta G must be equal to, delta G will be equal to what? Delta H. Entropy and enthalpy change will be equal to the Gibbs free energy change in cases where there is no change in the entropy. Okay. Now let us see the statistical nature of entropy. So in the previous slide, we learned the configurational entropy. There are two types of entropy we learned. Now, one is thermal, another is configurational entropy. Thermal entropy occurred due to the change in temperature, and configuration entropy due to the change in configuration of the material. So the configuration entropy of the sample is represented with the expression S equal to K times log W. W is the number of different configurations of the same material, and K is the Boltzmann constant. Okay. So here, as an example, you can see some possible arrangements of 16 atoms, 16 spheres are arranged in different form. There are two type of atoms, one black atom, another was white atom. They are configured, they are arranged in a different model. Okay. So here in the first two diagram, figure A and B, there is no specific order. They are disordered and random. But the third one is every dark ball is surrounded by a white ball. And the fourth one, every dark ball is clubbed together and the white balls are also clubbed together. So it is easy to calculate the total number W of such distinguishable configurations that we can have with these spheres. So as a general expression to find this, the number of distinguishable configurations using a particular number of atoms, we can write the expression W is equal to n factorial divided by n minus n factorial times n factorial. What is n? N is the total. Here we can say n the total number of size, and one type of atom is small n and the remaining number of type of atom is n minus n. Then the number of distinguishable configurations is given by W equal to n factorial divided by n minus n factorial times n factorial. Okay. Now using this in the expression for S, what you can find is delta S. What is delta S? Delta S is S initial minus S final. We already know delta S equal to K log W. K log W. Here W is the number of distinguishable states, is replaced by n factorial divided by n minus n factorial times n factorial. So using Stirling's approximation for n much greater than 1, you can write log n factorial equal to n log n minus n. We are not going to the details of the mathematical steps of Stirling's approximation, but we are using the result log n factorial equal to n log n minus n. Using that, what you can write here is, here this is actually log A divided by log B. That will be log A minus log B. So that expansion is given here. So there will be a log n factorial. Then we use Stirling's approximation. What is that? Log n factorial is n log n minus n. So using that, we get this expansion. N log n minus n minus n minus n log n minus n minus n minus n. This is all Stirling's approximation. Minus n log n minus n. Okay. Now, here you can see that there is minus n plus n. Here there is a plus n. This is a minus outside, so this will be again become minus. So the small n cancel, and there is one n here, and that n cancels with this. And what is remaining after the mathematical simplification is delta S. The change in entropy is K times n log n minus n minus n log n minus n minus n log n. This is how we got the expression for delta S, which we used earlier in the case of enthalpy of formation of the crystal defect. So from there we calculated, from there we diverted to this calculation, how we got this delta S. Okay, so this is for your understanding how we got the value of this delta S value. So now we can go back to the original expression for enthalpy of formation. Okay, so you remember this slide where delta HF represents the enthalpy of formation, and this was the equation. What is that? The change in Gibbs free energy. So we defined all these Gibbs free energy, enthalpy and entropy, everything we discussed in between now. So the Gibbs free energy change is given by delta H minus T delta S. Now this delta S is replaced with the expression. What is that? K times n log n minus n minus n log n minus n minus n log n. Okay, so the previous few slides were actually explaining how we got this delta S. Okay, so we got the expression for um, change in Gibbs free energy. Now, by setting, at equilibrium, the change in Gibbs free energy is zero because it is constant at equilibrium. So by setting the value of d by dn of delta G equal to 0 at the equilibrium concentration, d by dn of delta G equal to 0. So what you have to do is you differentiate this expression with respect to n. Differentiate this with respect to n. We'll get an expression n by capital N, and this n is the equilibrium concentration, by capital N equal to exponential minus delta HF. What is delta HF? That is the enthalpy of formation divided by RT. Okay, this is obtained by differentiation of the expression for delta G with respect to small letter n, d by dn. I'm just leaving the mathematical steps. Okay, you can try that. When you differentiate the first term, that will give only delta HF. When you differentiate the next term, that is n log n, use the identity derivative of a product uv, you can use that. Okay, then the next sorry, the first n, capital N log n, you can the derivative of this term will be 0 because the differentiation is with respect to n and this capital N is a constant number. And derivative of the next term, this term, you can use the product rule there, n minus n times log n minus n. Okay, so use the rule and you will get that one result. And then last also, you n log n, that also you can use the product rule there to differentiate this. Okay, and that gives an answer n by capital N equal to exponential minus delta HF by RT. Okay, if you find difficult for the calculation in the previous slide, just copied the calculation that I did here, so you can find this. Okay, so n times delta HF, that gives to the derivative gives to delta HF only, then Tk, that is there, then the first term, the n plus n log n, so it is u times v, so n plus n derivative is 1 because capital N is a constant, so dou n by dou n will give to 0, and small n is a variable, so it gives an answer 1 there. Then times log second function times log n plus n minus first function times derivative of second. So first function is n plus n, derivative of log n plus n is 1 by n plus n. Okay, minus this time n capital N log capital N, the answer is 0 because it is constant, minus small n log n, derivative will give, it is also uv type, so first function derivative is 1 times second function minus first function times derivative of second, that is 1 by n. So this one. Now, so this is log n plus n minus log n, that gives you log n plus n divided by n using the law of logarithms. So that is equal to 0. So you can take the minus tk log n plus n by n to the other side. So logarithm can be replaced by the exponential function, or take exponential on both sides, will give e to the power delta hf by kt is equal to n plus n by n plus n by n actually, but the value of small n at equilibrium is very much less than compared to the Avogadro number capital N. So that is why n plus n is replaced by n only divided by n. This is e raised to delta hf by kbt. Now taking the reciprocal, this is e to the power minus delta hf by kbt, this will be small n by capital N. Okay, so that is the calculation of the previous mode. Okay, the same type in the case of this is what we discussed is for normal type of defects, and in special, if we are discussing about Schottky defect, then the equilibrium concentration of a Schottky defect is given by n exponential delta hf Schottky divided by 2 rt to occur there, because in ionic crystals this defect occur in pairs, whether it is Schottky defect or it is a Frenkel defect. They occur in pairs to keep the electrical neutrality. So that is expression for concentration, equilibrium concentration of ionic crystals. This is a workout sample for calculation of equilibrium concentration of vacancies, point defect, vacancy defect in aluminum at 0 Kelvin and then at 300 Kelvin, etc. And the values of enthalpy of formation for aluminum is given as 56 kilojoule per mole. It is given in the table given there. Okay. So what's the expression for enthalpy of formation? N by capital N is equal to exponential negative delta HF divided by R. So substitute the quantities and you'll get the expression. This is only to practice. And there are few questions you can again work out the same type of problems based on enthalpy of, I mean, equilibrium, to calculate the equilibrium concentration, the number of vacancies. Okay. So I hope you got a clear idea regarding the different types of point defects: vacancies, interstitials, and substitution, then Frenkel defect and Schottky defect, and an idea about um, enthalpy of formation delta HF and the equilibrium concentration N by capital N, the derivation of that part. Okay. Okay, students, we'll see with another video module on the next type of defects, that is dislocations, then surface defects and volume defects. Okay. Okay, students, bye.